Welcome back in the zone with Jyll Saskin Gales. I just had an awesome live stream with Santosh of Guided PPC for his podcast, and I thought, you know what? I think the PPC Zone crowd would like this too. So here it is, a special edition of In the Zone. Let's have a listen.
Welcome to Guided PPC podcast. Today we are doing this special episode with Jyll Saskin Gales. She's coming up with her new book, Inside Google Ads, which you can see here. Yay, this is amazing. When is the book coming out, being released?
April 16th, 2025. So as when we're recording this, that's just 5 more days, and it will be in paperback and ebook on Amazon internationally.
Amazing. So obviously we're going to talk about the book a little bit, and I will try my best to pick Jill's brain on Google Ads. We'll dive inside Google Ads. But let's talk about the book. Who is this book for? Why should people not miss this?
Yeah, this book is really for people who use Google Ads and who want to understand the way Google Ads works and why it works that way. And that means it's not for everyone. I meet some people in my Google Ads coaching practice who come to me and they say, I don't care how the sausage gets made. Just tell me what to do. I'll do it and be done. And that is fair. And if that is you, this book is not for you. But if you're someone who wants to understand, well, why would I use this or that? Why would I choose this audience versus that audience? Why has it been structured that way? Why does Google do things that way? This book really dives into that. So it explains every single audience targeting solution in Google Ads, how they work or don't work with different campaign types, with different bid strategies, and then how to build your own audience strategy. And along the way, it's educational, telling you how all these things work, but I also explain why they work and really how to get inside the mind of Google and understand how Google works so that you can get Google working for you rather than feeling like you're always fighting against Google. And I think that's something really unique that I bring to the industry because I did work at Google for 6 years and I've been out of Google for 4 years now. I'm always a proponent of working with the system, not against the system. We may laugh on the outside at certain Google Ads product decisions or why did they do this or why won't they let us do that? But I feel like in my position, I have a really good understanding of why that is. And so I share a lot of that in this book, which is why my book, my course, my podcast are all called Inside Google Ads.
That's so amazing, Jyll. I think a lot of people miss this why part. A lot of people are after advanced tricks, advanced formulas. Tell me something that's working and I'm just going to copy it. And a lot of people that I have worked with, they come with this notion that, they've been doing things the way their boss asked them to do. They've been doing, some of them who built the courage, they do things the way the experts are saying this is how it works. Very few people actually go and question, hey, why am I using this, bid strategy? Why am I using this campaign type? Why am I using, match type for that matter? So there are a lot of things, and unless you connect those dots, you really just are scratching the surface of Google Ads. So I'm so glad that you are going to, unpack that in your book. That is so exciting.
Thank you. And I agree with that point that becoming an advanced practitioner isn't about having a script or using AI a certain way or knowing some tactic that someone on a podcast said you should use. It's about understanding why so that you can use Google Ads in a way that's going to work for each account you're working with. And I actually have a few different coaching clients right now who come to me, like one's running an agency for more than a decade. And he just said, I just feel like the way we've been doing things is not right anymore. And just the humility and awareness for someone to even be able to say that, I think we can do better for our clients. I think I want to see things in a new way. That's so important. And to me, that's what makes that agency and that agency owner such an advanced agency versus another that might just say, this is our process. This is what we do. That's always been the way it is. So I love getting to have those conversations. And in a way, writing a book was a way for me to get to have that conversation with my readers in a way that we just can't have in a social media post, right? If you post something on LinkedIn or I post a TikTok video, I need a hook. I need to drop something so the algorithm is going to pick it up and spread it. And details and nuances do not do well with our short attention spans on social media. So that was another reason why I wanted to write this book, so that for those like you and I who love those conversations, we can really dive deep and explore, at a different tempo.
Absolutely. There is one more thing that I really got fascinated with. You said that you believe in the philosophy of not working against the platform, right? And I think a lot of people get that wrong.
Yes.
That, hey, why is this Google rep bugging me? Why is this Google rep asking me to turn on the auto apply recommendations? Why they're asking me to launch a demand gen campaign? Why are they asking me to use a PMAX campaign, and so on and so forth? There are a lot of thoughts. So where do you find the balance that you can actually go with the platform, not work against it, and still get the results that you have to for your clients?
It's a great question, Santosh. My book actually wraps up on this point, but really the key is you just need to give Google, and I mean the Google Ads platform, I don't mean Google reps. You need to give Google what it needs so that it can give you the results you need. So what does Google need? Google needs accurate conversion tracking. Google
Right.
needs your customer data, right? Google needs sufficient budget. And then, of course, what it needs depends on the campaign type and all these other things. But if you give Google what it needs, then it can give you what you need. And that's what I mean when working with the system. Whereas if you do something like, a SCAG structure, exact match, negative keyword script that's going to review your search terms and apply every single close variant as a negative every hour on the hour. These are things where you're trying to fight the system to try to bend it to your will. And I don't know how many people listening are parents, but children don't work that way. And Google Ads doesn't work that way either. Okay. That is a stick. We don't use sticks around here. We use carrots. So I think of it as, Google Ads is kind of like a child. I treat it that way. And you just need to guide it, give it what it needs to set it up to succeed. And then it can succeed. You cannot beat Google Ads into submission in 2025.
No,
you shouldn't beat your children either, I should say.
Yeah, 100% you cannot beat the platform because and to hold on to something that worked 5 years, 10 years ago, and think that you're going to win with that. For example, I'm just going to do shopping campaigns. I'm not going to try PMAX. I'm just going to use manual CPC bid strategy. So what message do you have for people who are still holding on to those old school thoughts and thinking that they could still win with that?
It's like Vegas. The house always wins, but that doesn't mean you can't win too. Google Ads will always win, right? We pay money. There's more and more competition every year. SERPs are getting more crowded. Google's going to keep making more money. So you can either work with that system so you make more money also, or you can try to fight it, but you will lose. It's like in Vegas, if you try to count cards in a casino, you may get some short-term gains, but you will get kicked out of the casino, right? So the house is always going to win. And you can either work with the house, so you win too, or you can lose. I also just think about the power of Google's AI. I know we're often focused on Google Ads AI and smart bidding and optimized targeting, and some of these things work well and some maybe don't work as well. But Google has self-driving cars, Google has AlphaGo and these systems that can beat the world's most advanced players, right? At Go and chess and everything. So Google has the most sophisticated AI capabilities. Does that mean they're always perfect? No. They make mistakes. Sure, they're going to have that $200 click that didn't convert. And you're like, what the heck? Smart bidding is terrible. It made a mistake. And you know what? If you were manual bidding, you would make way more mistakes than that, but you would forgive yourself a lot faster. So as you might tell, I'm very passionate about this topic, but it's you can't beat the system. So you can either work with the system or sit out of the game. And of course, we're all here because we're Google Ads practitioners. We want to be in the game. We want to get great results for our own businesses, our clients' businesses. So just work to understand the system and work with the system so that you and Google can be successful together.
Absolutely. And in fact, when I started recording my first course, this was the analogy I gave people that, that was in 2022. 2022.
Okay. Well, that's an average my course as well. Yeah.
Yeah, amazing. So I told people that in the age of, because back then a lot of people were just head bent on using manual CPC. They just didn't think beyond that. So I told people that, in the age of Tesla's self-driving cars, if you're still holding on to the thought that oh, I know manual driving, I'm going to stick to that, then imagine where you will be. Right? So do you want to, like you're saying, do you want to use the AI capabilities and smart bidding and all of that extra capabilities that makes your job easier, or do you want to be sitting with hundreds of keywords and manually managing their bids, which is humanly not possible, right? A lot of people get this wrong as well, because they would think that, oh, manual CPC is a great bid strategy, for example, but are you going to practically manage bids for each of those keywords in all those real-time auctions? Possible.
It's not possible. Yeah, it's not. Now, look, are there certain scenarios where manual CPC could be the right solution in 2025? Absolutely. Okay. But I would say, based on my experience seeing a dozen different Google Ads accounts every week, that it's like 1 to 5% of campaigns maybe could benefit from using manual CPC in 2025. And people always think they're the exception. Well, I know smart bidding, but I know better. I'm like, I'm sorry, no, chances are you don't. There are very specific, unique scenarios where maybe it could, but otherwise, like smart bidding has that covered, right? Like there's in Google Ads, we have bidding, targeting, and creative. And bidding is somewhere where, in my opinion, automation has won. Targeting is somewhere where we're kind of 50-50. Creative is the place where it's still human. Will AI take over all three of these at some point? I don't know. But for now, that's how I kind of value it. Bidding, automated. Targeting, some automated, some manual. Creative, still manual, at least for now.
Great. Jyll, you talked about the audience targeting, and a lot of things are happening around that. So could you tell us what's cooking, what's really new with audience targeting and stuff?
Yeah, so a few newer things with audience targeting in Google Ads. One is the Google Engaged audience. I actually have an article about this coming out on Search Engine Land next week. And of course, I cover it in my book. But a Google Engaged audience is a new feature that just came out last year that's really great for small business owners. And that's why I'm trying to talk about it a lot, because so many new features we see in Google Ads, like customer retention, lifecycle goals for PMAX, like these are things for large advertisers. Most features benefit large advertisers, but Google Engaged Audiences is specifically for small advertisers. And what it is an auto-created remarketing list in your Google Ads account, populated with people who visit your website from Google-owned properties, from paid and organic. So like in plain non-jargon speak, that means if someone is on Google Search, YouTube, Maps, Discover, and they click to your website from one of those Google properties, whether it's your organic, search result or a paid search result, they automatically get added to this list, and then you can remarket to them later. Because normally the way remarketing works is you have to wait for them to get to your website, and then you have tags, but there's consent mode, and then you have to send it back to Google, and we lose a bunch of it because of cookies and privacy, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So with this solution, because they're on a Google property before they go to your website, Google knows who those users are, captures them on your Google Engaged audience for you. Every Google Ads account has one Google Engaged audience. You get it automatically, and it's just a beautiful remarketing solution for small business owners. So that's one of my favorite recent audience targeting developments.
That's completely new to me, and it sounds very exciting. But just break it down for me. So one Google Engaged audience, wouldn't it also contain the people who have already been customers, or is there a way you can actually segment it?
No segment, which to me is like a feature. The initial reaction was, oh, I want to segment it. No, the whole point is it's very simple.
Yeah.
You can't customize it. And because you can't customize it, it's just a simple, elegant solution that any business owner can use. So I'm like, if you that was my, can we segment it and exclude that? No, not the point, right? This is for small business owners, new businesses. The idea of linking Google Analytics to Google Ads would be overwhelming to them. I know you might come across these accounts sometimes, Santosh, right? You go to Audience Manager, you look at your data segments, and there's just nothing there. Now there will be a Google Engaged audience there, and that's exactly who this is designed for. So no, you can't customize it. You can't set a duration. You can't set rules. And that's the whole point. So For people who do use remarketing, no, you don't need this. But for all those small business owners, small service providers, brand new e-commerce businesses who are just getting started with ads and want to start remarketing, this is a beautiful way to do it because it's simple. There's just one list. You can build a lookalike off of it as well. There's no setup, tagging, anything required. It's just there and it just works.
Amazing. It might sound stupid, but I have seen this firsthand, how people get even their remarketing wrong. So I have seen people firsthand that they would go set up remarketing campaign and their audience segments are in market and affinity audiences.
Because this stuff is confused. Like, you and I laugh, ha ha ha. But like, this stuff is really this whole book is just explaining audiences, right? Like, there's a lot out there, and or the other one is they add the remarketing audiences, but they leave optimized targeting turned on. So all the spend goes towards optimized targeting, which expands to people not on your remarketing list. Yeah, we've seen it all. So I don't know what Google product manager came up with Google Engaged Audiences, but it's a brilliant solution. And I love it because it's one of those rare things that's just for small business owners.
No, absolutely. I think it's also going to, because the example I gave you was not about people who are new to Google Ads or business owners. I was talking about Google Ads specialists doing their job.
That I can't speak to.
So I guess this Google Engaged Audience is going to reduce that margin of error.
Exactly, because it's anyone, when they leave a Google property, meaning something Google owns, Google Search, Google Maps, YouTube, and go click to your website, Google captures them while they're still on the Google property saying, oh, they clicked to the website. Okay, they're on the Google Engaged Audience. And it's from organic too. So if someone sees your Google business profile and then clicks to your website from your Google business profile, nothing to do with ads, but they get added to the Google Engaged Audience in your ads account. So of course, there's it doesn't include direct traffic, referral traffic, social media traffic, but it's just like, boom, every Google Ads account now comes ready with a very easy to use remarketing solution, which I think is great.
Well, this might sound like a noob question, but what if I have 5 different websites under my MCC? Can I use that Google Engaged Audience across, or does it have to be unique to each of my accounts?
It's at the account level, not the MCC level. So what I have wondered, and I don't have an answer for, is like, what if in your account you're advertising 2 different domains? Then what happens to your Google Engaged Audience? I don't know. There's no documentation anywhere that says, right? It's a new feature and we're going to push and see these things. But for most use cases, again, for the small business owners for whom this is intended, there's one domain and you get this Google Engaged Audience and it works really well. Like I've had, there's one agency that I coach where they specialize in home services, kind of roofers, painters, landscaping, that kind of thing. And so they've been using this audiences to launch demand gen for their clients for the first time, because most of their clients, it's search-based and they want to expand. And so this has been a really nice audience to use for demand gen to a Google Engaged Audience for these small businesses that are maybe spending like $20 a day in demand gen. And it's been really nice to kind of support that funnel and bring, incremental conversions for that agency's clients.
Amazing. Thank you for explaining that. So, yeah. So one of the ways I want to, I'm asking this on behalf of the Google Ads specialist community out here, and there is no shame in, asking rather than assuming things, right? So we talked about playing for the platform, by the platform. We talked about, using AI and smart bidding and stuff. We talked about Google Engaged Audience. We also talked about the way people have got things wrong. What are some of the other things you have seen people getting wrong through your coaching programs? And, because it's so important to call those things out so that people at least understand that this is how others are getting it wrong. You should not.
Yes. Well, I see between 5 and 12 coaching clients every week, ranging from like small business owners who we are setting up their very first campaign to like coaching the head of paid search at an agency that oversees 200 clients. So I see a lot. I'm just going to go with what I've seen in the past like 2 weeks because that's what's top of mind for me right now. So on the small business owner side and kind of newer to Google Ads side, most common mistakes are not understanding match types, and so using all broad match keywords from the beginning. Not because broad match keywords are bad, but generally that kind of advertiser is looking to spend $20 to $30 a day, and they would most often be better served by exact match keywords. So that's a very common one. Location targeting is an interesting one. People often target too many locations or too wide a location, again, on the small business owner side, so I recommend reining that in. And then I see more kind of newer business owners and newer practitioners want to get started with demand gen or video campaigns, which I think is great. I actually had Corey Hankey as a guest for my Inside Google Ads course members yesterday, sharing his video ads tips. I learned a ton from him. And so his advice, I want to go focus, was to sort of maybe allocate 10% of your Google Ads budget to get started with video. But I think the thing a lot of smaller businesses do wrong is they spend all their time thinking about their budget and their targeting and which audiences and what content, and no time at all thinking about what's the video going to be. And then it comes time to do the campaign, like, oh, I'll just throw something in there for now. And then what do you know? It doesn't perform well, not because the targeting and settings weren't right, but because the video sucks. That's another common one I see where like the creative itself, the video, the image, even the text ad, the responsive search ads, just like the ads suck. That's a very common mistake at all levels, but especially for the newer ones. So those are some there. On the more advanced side, I guess some mistakes I'm seeing: over segmentation, having 10 different campaigns when they could be consolidated into 3. And the reason the consolidation is often better is because so much of that learning happens at the campaign level, at that bid strategy level. You want to have enough conversions per campaign for it to learn and scale. Switching to target CPA or target ROAS bidding too soon. Of course, the goal for most search campaigns, at least I will say, will be to get to target CPA or target ROAS bidding because of the control that affords. But like, you can't set a target CPA until you know your actual CPA. You can't set a target ROAS until you know your actual ROAS. So I would say setting a target too soon is a mistake there. Having too many keywords in an ad group, is 5 keywords in an ad group okay? Sure. Is 20 keywords in an ad group okay? Sure. Is 200 keywords in an ad group okay? Probably not. I could go on and on and on, but in the past few weeks, those are some of the mistakes I've seen.
Great. So location targeting is an interesting one. This is because I'm picking up on location targeting because we talked about playing by the platform, but location targeting is one setting where the platform can sometimes keep you off balance. So if you just go by the default recommended option of presence or interest, you can be showing your ads. I have seen, some restaurant in Texas showing ads in India during the COVID time. so
yes, we see that. Actually, I just saw that on a call yesterday. And it's interesting because when I'm on a 1-hour coaching call, I want to make sure I'm making best use of my client's time. And so I have to decide, like, am I going to suggest going to the campaign settings to check this? Because sometimes the practitioner might get offended. They're like, obviously, I know it's presence, not presence or interest. But I can't not check, because sometimes that really is an issue. So this was more of a beginner practitioner. So I was like, why don't we just take a look at those campaign settings there? Can you just click where it says location options in blue? And like, sure enough, all 4 campaigns were set to presence or interest, not presence. I'm like, so those spam leads you've been getting from Dubai when you operate in the US, that's why. Let's change that now.
Yeah. So anybody who is watching this, please go stop everything you're doing and check your campaigns and see whether those campaigns are set to presence, not presence or interest.
It's not available on all campaign types, though. So interestingly, in demand gen, these are always changing, but like, you can't change that setting. It's just not there, which makes me assume the default is presence or interest. Performance Max for a long time didn't let you change that setting. I believe you can now. But again, because I see so many different ad accounts all over the world every week, sometimes it'll be there, sometimes it's not there. So like in search, you can absolutely change this. Shopping, display, video, can you? I don't even know off the top of my head. But like in Demand Gen and Performance Max, you may or may not see these options, which means it's defaulted to presence or interest, which means you need to be aware of that and think about what that means for your business. For e-commerce, it's often not as much of an issue because like if someone can't buy in a different country, then it'll learn. But for lead gen, it can be a really big issue. And so if you're using a campaign type that doesn't let you choose just presence, then you need to have other plans in place to combat potential spam leads, or at least leads from countries you can't serve.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, if it is not available, you can't do anything about it. But if it's there, and one of the ways, I had a Google rep reach out to me, trying to, you work for Google, so
I used to work at Google. I know.
So there, and everybody knows, because you can't be managing Google ads and not be hit by Google reps trying to schedule a call with you. So one of them interestingly reached out to me saying that, hey, you know what, you are spending this amount of money in. So we left on one of the accounts, we left the location targeting to presence or interest, and he showed me that you have spent this much money in Dubai, this much money in countries outside of the US. The client was targeting only US. So said you should fix it. And he ran the user location report. So guys, anybody who is worried about this, go and run a user location report. I think running the reports are much easier now.
Yeah. It's a great point. When I worked at Google, I was on the Google Ad sales team and large customer sales. In my role, I was an international growth consultant. So I worked with large Canadian businesses that wanted to expand outside of Canada, usually to the States and then to Europe or Asia. But then I also was kind of the go-to at Google globally if there were big clients in other countries who wanted to expand into Canada. And so I once did this exercise where I was looking at American advertisers who were spending money in Canada, and I would reach out to the account team and just say, hey, like your client so-and-so is spending about 5% of their budget in Canada. Why don't we meet, maybe expand? And I would say maybe a third of the time they'd say like, oh, we don't do business in Canada. Like that must be a mistake. And it was because of this setting. So I was like, ooh, an opportunity, someone who can grow in Canada. And they're like, thanks for emailing me. I'm going to go check all the campaigns because we're not intending to be advertising in Canada.
Yeah, again, there is no...
Large customers do this too. But when you're spending millions, you don't notice if a couple 100,000 ends up wasted in Canada, I guess.
Yeah. So you can play with the platform, but you got to be careful about the options the platform gives you. And, you got to be wiser about that. So because you have worked for Google, Jyll, and you have so much experience in the industry, one of the pain points that people have, and especially I went to Affiliate World in Dubai, and there I met a lot of affiliates and e-com guys. One of their biggest pain points is suspensions. So being the insider that you are now, not currently, but 6 years is a long time, what can you advise them that how can they first avoid having their account suspended, what they can do, and if they're suspended, what's their way out? Should they approach it?
I'm going to be a little glib with my answer. And this is because I was not an account manager, so I was never personally responsible for helping a client who has been suspended. But follow the rules. And I know that sounds like a jerky kind of thing to say, but the rules of Google Ads are very clear. Sometimes a weird thing will happen, like you start your account and your payment method gets suspended. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about you've been running ads for a while and then you get suspended and your appeal is denied. It's usually because you weren't following the rules. So follow the rule, and I know especially with affiliates, there's a lot of issues with trademarks and misrepresentation and all kinds of stuff that can happen. So I actually don't have any insider advice for getting out of a suspension. It just wasn't something that I dealt with well at Google. But I will say when I've had potential leads reach out to me to work with them, they're like, oh, my account is suspended because this, that, the other. I'm like, no, don't book a call with me. I can't help you because you broke the rules. So I don't know, don't break the rules next time.
Well, I think the question is not about people don't want to break the rules, but I think they miss the details. So
that's fair.
Every time their account is suspended, hey, you broke these 5 rules. Figure out which one.
That's absolutely fair. So that's perhaps that is unfair of me to say then, but unfortunately, I do not have insider information to share there. I can share that when I worked at Google, there was one very large client who got suspended because of their business practices. I think it was 6 months. They weren't allowed to advertise. And this was one of it was a very large advertiser. So the whole sales team was on, the powers that be at Google trying to get this fixed. And eventually it was able to get fixed. And, I was not the one personally dealing with that, so I can't speak for what was said in internal meetings or anything like that. But it was my understanding that, what that business was doing, if not breaking a rule, was skirting super close, And at Google, because of the scale of Google and the scope of Google's impact on society and on all of our lives, my observation is that Google tends to be overly cautious about these sort of things. It's why, ChatGPT lets you generate images from day one. Google let you generate images, and then all of a sudden you weren't allowed to generate images of people for, it was almost a year or something, because that is the mentality that I experienced while I was there, very careful and taking very seriously the responsibility that a company as large and impactful as Google has. So as that relates to account suspensions, I'll say, yeah, you might get suspended for some where you didn't know you broke the rule or you didn't know what the rule was. You don't feel like fair enough. From Google's perspective, there's a lot of reputationally that's at stake. And so I did observe, people at Google being very overly cautious about not trying to, misrepresent, break rules, etc. So for better or for worse, the mentality at Google that I experienced was we have a duty to protect users. And when in doubt, protecting the user is the most important thing, even if that means suspending an advertiser who maybe shouldn't have been suspended.
No, at least Google is, unlike Meta, wouldn't shadow ban everything without telling you whether or not you broke the rules. So in a way, Google is a lot better, I would say. It would always add up, right?
Yeah, again, I am not a Meta advertiser, but I did have a Facebook business page, and then it just got suspended, and that was it. Okay, no more Facebook business page. So that's my only Meta business experience. I'm well, this sucks.
All right. So you talked about the scale and scope of Google, and that reminded me of what does it look like, because Google, people say, is being disrupted right in front of us by ChatGPT, DeepSeek and stuff. What's your take on this? Will Google be around 5 years down the line? Is 5 years even a long time? Maybe 2 years down the line, the same way that we know Google Ads, the way we today?
Yeah, I had the pleasure of seeing Rand Fishkin speak at Friends of Search in Amsterdam and at SMX Munich, and he shares lots of great information about this. You should definitely check him out, founder of SparkToro. But his thesis, if I will try to summarize correctly, is all this AI stuff and ChatGPT is growing really quickly, but Google is still this giant, huge mammoth that still occupies this really unique space. And so, there was a big headline I think I just saw today or yesterday, Google's market share slips below 90% for the first time to 89.1%. And I'm okay, but it's still 89.1%, we live in this bubble where we're seeing all these ChatGPT generated action figures on our LinkedIn, all day. But most people don't live in that bubble. And to most people in the world, this is still new and a little scary and maybe a little exciting. And so I say all that to say, will search engines as we know them one day cease to exist? I don't know that I'll say they'll cease to exist. They're already changing, as we can see with AI overviews, which again, I know we all hate, but if I talk to normal people in my family, they all like them. It's just marketers that hate them. So is it all changing? Yes, but I think the demise of Google and others like it is way overblown. We also have to keep in mind that Google is not just Google search, right? Google is Maps, Google is YouTube, Google is Android, Google is Chrome, at least if the US Justice Department has anything to say about it. So there's a lot of other ways that Google is integrated into our lives and affects our lives as people and as advertisers. So put it this way, I'm not concerned about my job security as a Google Ads coach and course creator and author. Is the world changing? Absolutely. It's always changing. But voice search was supposed to be the thing that completely changed everything. I have 3 Google Homes in my house. Do I ask them for anything besides the weather and set a timer? No, that was supposed to be a revolution. So yes, AI is changing everything, but I don't think that means that Google is going to become irrelevant in our lifetimes.
No, I have the same thought. Voice search was so much hyped, didn't do anything. hey, people are still using Bing for searching.
In VR, right? Meta renamed to Meta because the metaverse was supposed to be huge. Who
Right.
spends any time in the meta? So I don't think AI is going to be a nothing burger like that. AI, I do think, is here to stay and absolutely is really changing things. But I don't think the conclusion is, oh, Google's in trouble and SEO doesn't matter anymore. Like, no, most people are still using Google to search and find answers to what they need to know.
Well, having said that, I think there is some disruption on the horizon. The way a lot of Google Ads specialists and businesses and advertisers use Google is search keywords and stuff. Will we be able to practice Google Ads the same way, reliant on search and keywords and stuff 2 years, 3 years, 4 years down the line, or do you see?
No, absolutely. So, but that is a change that started long before any of us knew what ChatGPT was.
Right.
The big change to keyword match types and the way they work, that was around 2021. So that was already like 4 years ago when exact was no longer exact and phrase was no longer phrase.
Right.
Broad match modifier was deprecated in 2021 as well. So that was like a big change. Performance max was like 2022, I want to say. When that came out, that completely changed things. Now we're hearing rumblings about search max, which essentially is keywordless search. So like we've been going in that direction for a long time. It's one of the reasons I think audience targeting is so important to talk about right now. Advertising based on who the user is rather than advertising based on what the user's doing. So that, yes, absolutely is changing and will continue to change. And maybe AI is an accelerant of that change, but it's not the start. Like this has been happening a really long time, which is why like if anyone from 2015 were to look at a Google Ads account today, never mind the two interface changes that have happened since 2015, they would have no idea what they were looking at. And similarly, if any of us could take a time machine to go look at our AdWords accounts from 2015,
I still have people
like
who call it
laughing our butts off, So that has been happening independently of AI. It will continue to happen influenced by AI, but that's the name of the game. Change is the only constant. And it's not just Google Ads. Like I listened to John Loomer's excellent podcast to keep up to date about meta ads. And so I hear through him a lot of the same things happening on the meta ad platform and Advantage Plus. And, there's no detail targeting anymore in your bid strategies, but like these changes are happening everywhere to all the ad platforms as well, not just Google Ads.
Absolutely. And in fact, my perspective was that the moment Google started talking about audience signals, not audience targeting, I think that was a huge change. That was a big signal saying that, guys, it's no longer only about keywords. It's going to be very different.
And I think that was so smart. Like I mentioned it in the book that like optimized targeting and audience signals are two completely different features in two completely different campaign types. An audience signal is for PMAX. Optimized targeting is for display and demand gen campaigns. But I actually think they're the same thing behind the scenes. And this is like Jyll positing. This is not insider information. But like optimized targeting considers your audience targeting, but then goes beyond it to find conversions. And an audience signal considers the audiences you've chosen, but goes beyond it to find you more conversions. But calling it an audience signal, meaning, hey, human, mere mortal, you can give the AI a signal, is much more appealing to our egos versus optimized targeting. Ooh, let AI optimize it for you. Heck no. So yeah, that's one of the theories I put forward in the book, like optimized targeting, audience signal, potato. But basically, human, you want to give us a suggestion? Oh, that's so cute. Sure, give us a suggestion. But actually, F that, and I'm going to go target whoever I think is going to get me what I want, which is conversions, clicks, whatever the bid strategy says I should be focusing on.
And they're not wrong in saying that, because we know one keyword, like somebody typing for, digital marketing course would be interested in buying the digital marketing course. Probably not, but somebody just searching for digital marketing probably would be interested in buying a course because Google has 99 other signals to suggest otherwise.
Like the fact that yesterday they were searching for digital marketing courses, right? And then maybe today they're just searching digital marketing. Like
Exactly.
that's sort of the promise of broad match keywords that I think most people don't realize. It's like, oh, I use broad match. My search terms are all irrelevant. And like, if we have a small budget, yes, that's concerning. But if you have a larger budget and you're leveraging smart bidding and you have conversion tracking, all the things you should have if you're going to use broad match, then like, I'm not terribly concerned about the search terms that seem irrelevant because Google is taking into account so many signals about that searcher that we just don't know. And so will there be mistakes? Sure. But it's why I've seen people post funny things on LinkedIn of like, look at this search terms report. And it's like crazy stuff. And maybe it's week one of the campaign and it is just crazy stuff. Or, maybe we just can't see the full context of why Google decided to make that match. And that even if that singular search term doesn't pan out, that the logic behind it, if we could have seen everything the AI saw, that we would have made the same judgment call.
Amazing. So from our conversation so far, it sounds a lot like, I'm going to read the book, by the way. I'm not much into books,
Good.
but
You should.
but this is one book I'm not going to miss. It sounds like this book is going to give people the mindset to look at Google differently versus holding on to their egos and old school thoughts. Is that a fair way to summarize?
It's a very fair way to summarize it. And I say that, in the introduction to the book. Can I read 2 sentences for you? Because I think this will help.
Oh, please.
From the foreword.
This is a privilege for this podcast.
It's the first time sharing publicly. It's from the foreword. It says, in this book, you'll find fair criticism, measured optimism, and some gentle poking fun at Google Ads product decisions that I find questionable. My mantra is to work with the system, not against the system, to drive the best results for your business. I've written this book for you so that you can get the might of Google working for your business too. It's like, I say it right there. That was exactly the goal.
Yay. So there you go, people. You have the first exclusive 2 lines from the book before the book is actually released. And you heard it first on Guided PPC podcast.
Santosh, thank you so much for hosting me and for this wide-ranging Google Ads conversation. I've appreciated it.
Thanks so much, Jyll. Thank you so much. Pleasure is all mine. And thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you.